If you believe California's housing market is finally steadying itself in 2026, it's time for a reality check. Beneath the optimistic headlines about market balance and controlled cooling, a far more uncomfortable truth is unfolding. For everyday Californians, buying a home has become harder, riskier, and more financially draining than ever before. What's being labeled a recovery is, in many ways, a fragile illusion built on shaky foundations. Home values remain among the most expensive in the entire country, yet real affordability continues to slide backward. Mortgage payments are still crushing, wages haven't kept pace, and the hidden costs of ownership are exploding. Insurance has become one of the biggest silent killers of affordability. Premiums tied to wildfire zones and coastal exposure jumped nearly 20% in just the past year alone, adding thousands in annual expenses that many households never budgeted for. Meanwhile, population trends tell a story that realtors don't like to advertise. California is still losing residents at an alarming rate. In 2025 alone, more than 300,000 people packed up and left, searching for lower taxes, more attainable housing, and a lifestyle that doesn't feel like a financial endurance test. Despite minor price dips in a few metro areas, the outflow hasn't slowed. The core issue is becoming impossible to ignore. Buyer demand is thinning. Housing supply is piling up, and risk factors are multiplying. From wildfire-prone communities in Southern California to the oversaturated suburban sprawl around the Bay Area, warning signs are lighting up across the state. Agents may keep selling the dream, but the numbers simply don't add up anymore. In certain cities, owning a home has quietly transformed into a long-term financial trap, one capable of draining savings, eroding wealth, and destabilizing families over time. So before you commit to California's version of paradise, it's worth taking a hard look at where the cracks are forming. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly which California cities may be the most dangerous places to buy before the 2026 housing correction fully unfolds. Number 10. Los Angeles. Los Angeles enters 2026 under mounting pressure, and the cracks are no longer easy to hide. Behind the palm trees, red carpets, and luxury branding lies a housing market stretched to its breaking point. The median home price now hovers near $860,000, while the typical household earns just around $78,000 a year. For first-time buyers, that gap isn't challenging, it's prohibitive. The financial reality is unforgiving. Monthly mortgage payments routinely exceed $4,000. And that's before factoring in property taxes, homeowner association fees, or skyrocketing insurance costs. Interest rates may have eased slightly from their 2025 peaks, but hovering around 6.5%, they still offer little relief to stretched buyers. Insurance has become another major pressure point. Premiums in Los Angeles have doubled since 2022, fueled by increasing wildfire risk, extreme heat, and climate-related claims. Even neighborhoods once considered bulletproof Silver Lake, Echo Park, West Hollywood are feeling the strain. Listings are sitting longer, and price reductions are becoming common. In the first quarter of 2026 alone, nearly 1 in 4 homes saw their asking price cut. At the same time, people are voting with their feet. Since 2023, more than 30,000 residents have left Los Angeles, citing rising costs, congestion, and public safety concerns. While high-end developments continue to reshape downtown, the city's middle-class core is rapidly shrinking. Teachers, healthcare workers, artists, and creatives, the backbone of the city, are being priced out of the communities they helped build. The cruel irony is hard to miss. In a city famous for selling dreams, homeownership has become one of the most expensive illusions of all. Number 9. Oakland. Once known as the cultural soul of the Bay Area, Oakland is facing a sobering moment in 2026. For years, it served as a more affordable, more grounded alternative to San Francisco. That identity is now fading. Median home prices have climbed to roughly $710,000, while household incomes struggle to keep up, barely crossing $82,000. The result is a widening affordability gap that's turning homeownership into a slow financial bleed rather than a path to stability. By early 2026, the numbers in Oakland are telling a clear story. More than 3 out of every 10 homes on the market have already been forced to cut their asking price, and listings are lingering for an average of 65 days, more than twice as long as they did just 2 years ago. But the biggest danger facing the city isn't declining prices, it's the collapse of buyer confidence. Oakland has now landed among the top 5 cities nationwide for property-related crime. Car theft, home break-ins, and street assaults have surged, shaking the sense of safety that buyers and small landlords depend on. As a result, both residents and investors are quietly backing away. Since 2024, over 11,000 people have left the city, draining not just population numbers, but also tax revenue, local businesses, and long-term faith in the market. Insurance pressures are making matters worse. In hillside neighborhoods vulnerable to wildfires, premiums have surged nearly 40%. In some cases, homeowners are losing coverage entirely, forced to carry enormous financial risk with little protection. Layer on sluggish job growth, rising local taxes, an aging infrastructure, and the cost of staying starts to outweigh the benefit. Oakland still has heart. Its murals, music, and deeply rooted community culture remain powerful. But character alone can't prop up a housing market. Buyers are cautious, momentum is fading, and the foundation feels increasingly unstable. Number 8. Stockton. Stockton was once held up as a comeback story after the Great Recession, a symbol of recovery and resilience. But as 2026 unfolds, that progress is beginning to slip, and the warning signs are becoming harder to ignore. The median home price now sits near $475,000, while average household income struggles to reach $68,000. By California standards, that gap might seem manageable, but for Stockton, it's a dangerous imbalance. Many families stretched their finances to buy during the pandemic-era surge and are now paying the price. Adjustable-rate mortgages are resetting at higher levels, insurance costs continue to rise, and home equity is shrinking. Foreclosures have increased by 15% year over year, and nearly 25% of listings cut their prices in the first quarter of 2026 alone. Homes are sitting on the market for 50 days or more, a stark contrast to the rapid bidding wars and cash offers that once defined the area. Crime remains another persistent drag on demand. Stockton's violent crime rate ranks among the highest in California, weakening buyer confidence and pushing investors towards safer alternatives. Meanwhile, new housing developments continue expanding outward, but demand isn't keeping pace. Vacant homes are increasing faster than occupied ones, a quiet but troubling trend. What's happening in Stockton isn't sudden or explosive, it's slow and subtle, and that's precisely what makes it dangerous. A steady squeeze on working families, a weakening sense of stability, and a housing market that feels increasingly empty beneath the surface. Number 7. San Diego. San Diego has long sold itself as a coastal dream, sun-soaked days, ocean breezes, and postcard-perfect living. It's the kind of place that makes people believe no price is too high. But in 2026, that sunshine is concealing serious financial storms. Home prices have once again climbed past $840,000, while median household income remains stuck near $85,000. That imbalance forces many homeowners to devote over 45% of their income to housing costs alone, before accounting for insurance, property taxes, or maintenance. For many families, that margin is unsustainable. Insurance has quietly become San Diego's most urgent housing crisis. Wildfire risk on the city's eastern edges, coastal erosion along the shoreline, and steadily rising sea levels have all driven premiums sharply higher. Since 2020, insurance costs have jumped nearly 60%, and several major providers have pulled out of the market entirely. Homeowners are now competing for limited, high-cost policies, often accepting reduced coverage just to remain insured. What once felt like a premium lifestyle is increasingly turning into a financial balancing act, where even small disruptions can push budgets past their breaking point. Even the downtown condo scene, once one of San Diego's hottest segments, is losing momentum. Years of aggressive development have flooded the market, demand has cooled, and by early 2026, more than a quarter of condo listings had already been forced to slash their prices. The imbalance is becoming impossible to ignore. On top of that, homeowners are being squeezed from every direction. Property taxes rank among the highest in California, and newly introduced water usage fees are quietly adding hundreds, sometimes thousands, to annual household costs. On the surface, San Diego still sells the image of palm trees, perfect weather, and a vibrant dining culture. But behind that postcard exterior sits one of the most financially stretched housing markets in the country. What was once considered a lifestyle premium has turned into a liability. For buyers who enter at the wrong moment, San Diego can become a beautiful trap, expensive to maintain and difficult to escape. Number 6. Burbank. Burbank, long seen as Hollywood's golden suburb, is confronting a sharp and unexpected reality shift in 2026. Once defined by studio prestige and stable middle-class living, this picture-perfect city is now feeling the pressure from every angle. The median home price has climbed to nearly $970,000, while average household income hovers around $92,000. On paper, that gap may not seem catastrophic, but in practice, it's punishing. Mortgage rates above 6.5%, combined with some of the highest property taxes in Los Angeles County, have made ownership increasingly brutal. Insurance has emerged as another quiet but powerful threat. With record-breaking heat, wildfire exposure near the Verdugo Mountains, and prolonged drought conditions, annual insurance costs for even basic coverage have surged past $4,700. Many longtime residents now dedicate close to half their take-home pay just to housing-related expenses. Even Burbank's historic advantage, its proximity to major studios and creative jobs, has lost some of its protective power. The entertainment industry's post-strike slowdown has reduced hiring, while layoffs in animation and production technology have rippled through the local economy. Homes that once attracted bidding wars now sit idle for 2 months or longer before drawing serious interest. At a glance, Burbank still looks idyllic. Tree-lined streets, classic diners, sunlight reflecting off studio gates. But beneath that polished surface, buyers are cautious, sellers are anxious, and the market feels oddly overproduced, like a film set where the lights are starting to flicker. Number 5. Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz has always embodied California's free-spirited coastal dream, a place where surfers, artists, and creatives carved out a life between towering redwoods and the Pacific Ocean. But in 2026, that relaxed paradise is under intense financial strain. Median home prices have climbed to an eye-watering $1.18 million, while average household income barely exceeds $87,000. That imbalance places Santa Cruz among the least affordable housing markets in the entire nation. Even solidly middle-income families are now spending more than half of their gross income just to keep up with mortgage payments. Insurance has become a full-blown crisis. Santa Cruz sits at the intersection of multiple climate risks: coastal flooding, rising sea levels, and wildfire threats in the surrounding hills. Since 2022, insurance premiums have jumped roughly 45%. Some homeowners are now required to carry specialized fire coverage that adds thousands of dollars per year, while certain coastal policies are being denied altogether. The housing market itself is cooling rapidly. In the first quarter of 2026, nearly 27% of listings reduced their asking prices, and homes are lingering on the market at more than double their pre-pandemic pace. Younger families are increasingly relocating inland in search of affordability, while retirees and investors hesitate to commit to a market that feels precariously balanced. Santa Cruz still has beauty, culture, and soul, but in today's market, those qualities alone are no longer enough to justify the financial risk. Santa Cruz still carries that undeniable charm, the boardwalk buzzing with life, rolling waves, and sunsets that set the sky on fire. But for most would-be homeowners, chasing that dream now borders on financial recklessness. The magic hasn't disappeared, but the price of entry has become dangerously high. Number 4. Santa Barbara has long been marketed as California's Mediterranean jewel, where Spanish-style architecture meets ocean air and exclusivity is part of the appeal. Yet in 2026, that vision of paradise comes with an unforgiving cost and an expanding list of red flags. Median home prices are now pushing toward $1.45 million, while average household income lingers near $93,000. That's not merely an affordability gap, it's a financial abyss. Monthly mortgage payments routinely exceed $5,000, even before factoring in property taxes that rank among the most aggressive in the state. But Santa Barbara's most severe pressure point isn't pricing alone, it's environmental risk. Wildfires creeping down from the foothills, mudslides triggered by winter storms, and prolonged drought conditions have turned insurance into a major obstacle. Annual premiums now surpass $5,200, and some hillside properties can no longer qualify for standard coverage at all. At the top end of the market, momentum is fading. Nearly 30% of listings lowered their asking prices in the first quarter of 2026, while average time on the market has stretched beyond 70 days. Even affluent buyers are hesitating, a clear signal that confidence is slipping. The fallout isn't limited to luxury homeowners. Since 2024, more than 8,000 residents have left Santa Barbara, many of them service workers, educators, and small business owners who can no longer afford to live where they work. As workforce housing disappears, local shops and restaurants are struggling to survive. Santa Barbara still looks flawless on camera, palm-lined streets, ocean breezes, postcard sunsets, but behind the beauty lies a housing market balancing precariously between prestige and instability. Number 3. Palm Springs, the iconic desert retreat once synonymous with old Hollywood glamour, mid-century design, and poolside leisure, is now confronting the realities of its harsh environment. In 2026, the luxury image remains intact, but the underlying risks are impossible to ignore. Median home prices hover around $670,000, while median household income struggles to reach $72,000. That mismatch is growing more problematic by the year. Homeowners are facing rising utility bills, escalating insurance costs, and an increasingly punishing climate that's pushing the market toward a breaking point. Last year alone, Palm Springs endured more than 70 days, with temperatures soaring above 110 degrees Fahrenheit, shattering yet another heat record. Air conditioning has become a necessity rather than a comfort, consuming a massive portion of household budgets. Water restrictions continue tightening, adding further pressure in a city built around pools and landscaping. Insurance costs have surged as well. Premiums in higher risk zones have jumped roughly 55% since 2023, and several major carriers have pulled out of the area entirely. Coverage options are shrinking just as climate risks intensify. Despite these challenges, development hasn't slowed. Overbuilding during the short-term rental boom has saturated the market. By early 2026, nearly one-third of listings had already reduced their prices. The result is a strange contradiction. Plenty of homes available, but fewer buyers willing to commit. Tourists still arrive for weekend getaways, and Palm Springs continues to shine on social media. But beneath the sparkling pools and mountain backdrops, the housing market is straining under environmental and economic pressure. The city remains beautiful, iconic, and sun-drenched, but the foundation beneath that shine is starting to crack. Ironically, the same sun that helped build Palm Springs' identity is now casting a long shadow over its future. Number 2. Mendocino. Perched along Northern California's rugged coastline, surrounded by towering redwoods and sheer ocean cliffs, Mendocino looks like it belongs to another era. Quiet, timeless, untouched by modern chaos. But in 2026, that very isolation has become its biggest vulnerability. The average home price has climbed past $655,000, while median household income struggles to reach $62,000. That imbalance has pushed most local workers completely out of the market. Families who once sustained the town are relocating inland, leaving behind an aging population and a housing market that feels increasingly frozen in place. Insurance pressures are accelerating the decline. Wildfire exposure throughout forested areas and intensifying coastal storms have driven annual premiums to roughly $4,900 for basic coverage. Several insurers have stopped issuing new policies altogether, forcing buyers into costly state-backed plans with limited protection. Infrastructure is another quiet but serious concern. Roads deteriorate quickly under winter rains, power outages are frequent, and broadband access remains unreliable across much of the county. Healthcare options are limited, emergency services are stretched thin, and everyday necessities often require long drives. For many residents, relocation, not long-term residency, is becoming the practical choice. Market activity reflects that reality. In the first quarter of 2026, roughly 35% of listings reduced their prices, the highest rate in Northern California. Mendocino remains stunning, the kind of place where fog drifts in like poetry and time seems to slow. But beauty doesn't pay mortgages, and serenity alone can't sustain a tax base. Mendocino isn't collapsing in dramatic fashion. It's eroding quietly, one family leaving, one insurer pulling out, one empty home at a time. Number 1. San Francisco. San Francisco, the city of innovation, icons, and impossible views, once symbolized the future of urban life. In 2026, that future feels far less certain. The Golden Gate still glows at sunset, but beneath the surface, the city's housing foundation is showing serious cracks. Median home prices hover near $1.3 million, among the highest in the nation. Median household income sits around $125,000, impressive by most standards, yet nowhere near enough to offset the combined burden of housing costs, insurance, taxes, and fees that continue to climb. The pandemic-era exodus left a permanent mark. Since 2021, more than 60,000 residents have departed, including thousands of tech workers and families who once fueled the city's economy. Downtown vacancy rates remain above 30%, and nearly 1 in 3 homes listed in early 2026 had to reduce its asking price. Concerns about crime and quality of life have compounded the damage. Property theft and vandalism persist in commercial corridors, discouraging small businesses and cautious buyers alike. Insurance premiums now exceed $6,000 per year for many homeowners, while condominium HOA fees frequently surpass $2,000 a month. Even high-end properties are lingering on the market longer than ever, a clear signal that prestige alone no longer guarantees appreciation. San Francisco hasn't lost its identity. The creativity is still there, the energy, the unmatched scenery, but it has been hollowed out by cost, consequence, and uncertainty. California's housing story in 2026 isn't defined by a sudden crash. It's shaped by a slow, grinding correction. Prices haven't collapsed, but the illusion of endless growth has. And for buyers who mistake beauty and reputation for financial safety, the cost of that illusion could last for decades. Across California, the same storyline keeps unfolding again and again. Exploding housing costs, vanishing affordability, and a steady stream of moving trucks reshaping entire communities one departure at a time. This isn't a series of isolated problems, it's a statewide pattern. First, borrowing costs remain high enough to crush purchasing power even as home prices stop climbing. Flat prices don't mean affordable when interest rates continue to inflate monthly payments. Second, the hidden expenses of ownership are accelerating faster than wages. Insurance premiums and property taxes are rising aggressively, especially in coastal regions and wildfire-prone areas where risk is no longer theoretical. And third, supply is quietly building. More homes are coming to market, but fewer buyers can realistically qualify, feeding a growing sense that the market's peak may already be behind us. Still, this doesn't mean every door is closing. For disciplined buyers and long-term thinkers, periods like this often create rare openings. As overheated cities correct, attention is beginning to shift toward more sustainable regions. Areas like the Inland Empire, and even parts of northern Nevada, are starting to look increasingly attractive by comparison. The real mistake right now isn't hesitation, it's rushing in unprepared. This market rewards patience, research, and restraint. Whether you're thinking about buying, selling, or simply trying to protect what you already have, one thing matters more than ever. Real estate today isn't just about where you buy, it's about when. And right now, timing favors caution over emotion. Which city on this list surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and let us know if you're seeing similar warning signs where you live. If this breakdown changed how you view California's housing market, make sure to subscribe. The next chapter of the 2026 housing forecast is still unfolding, and knowing where it's headed could make the difference before it hits your wallet.